July 7th will mark 9 months since the October 7th massacre by the Hamas terrorist organization. 9 months of war, 9 months that 116 hostages are still being held in Gaza. The IDF has announced a shift to phase 3, but reiterates the war is still far from over. On this occasion, a major march, a major protest is being organized, marking a split in Israeli society once again. Joining us now in the studio are two mothers of IDF soldiers who for the better part of 9 months have been on duty. Two mothers with shared experiences, but with very different outlooks on the war. So I'd like to welcome Sarah Sassoon and Mol Shamgar. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Sarah, let's start with you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your son? How long has he been serving in Gaza?
So my son began last March. He's in Sadir, which means he began his military service then. He's in elite paratroopers. And yeah, when he began, we had no idea there would be a war. And yeah, when October 7th happened, he was at home with Simchat Torah, and that was it. He got up, got dressed in his fatigues, and was gone. That was the beginning of the reality of having a son, not just in the army, but at war. And he's been in and out of Gaza since then. And he's in Gaza at the moment, in Sadia, as we speak.
Absolutely. And Mo, the same question to you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your son? I know he was also serving in the north.
Yeah, he's in reserve. He's 27, going on 27. He's a tank commander. He was in the north for 155 days, came back, he's a student. And now he's been there for a month, and they talked to him about October, November again. But when Sarah was speaking, it reminded me that I was a soldier in '82 war, and my boyfriend was wounded in the war. So this whole cycle of war after war. My father was wounded in '73 war. So it's like this perpetual, we're basically in a perpetual war. You don't sleep well. We can lie, but we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and somehow find something to read or pray or do mantra. My son will come back my son will come back healthy. My son will come back healthy. My son will come back healthy. Or you do Reiki, or everybody has their own thing. Some people cook, I know, but you don't sleep well. I don't think men sleep well as well. I think men who've been to the army, whose sons are there, are even worse than the mothers.
It's the perpetual or the realities of life in Israel, unfortunately. Yeah. And Sarah, turning back to you, so you penned an opinion piece just yesterday about what it's like to be the mother of an IDF soldier, what it's like, in today's reality, and why you will not be attending this protest or any other protests during a time of war. Can you perhaps share your thoughts with us, maybe elaborate a little bit?
Okay. So I had the stance from the very beginning of the protest movements in response to the government. It wasn't a political stance not to go to the protests. I wouldn't go to the right or the left because when I went to one of the right protests, because I was curious, what are they saying? There was no call for unity. And without the call for unity, I couldn't respect them. And this was across the board. There was no call for unity. And I was feeling, also with my background, I'm an Iraqi Jew. My father's from Baghdad. They all came in 1951, all my grandparents. And they experienced the experience of the Jews from Arab lands in Israel. They were living in refugee camps. They had nothing. And I was seeing with the protests that the Middle Eastern way of being that I come from as a Middle Eastern Jew wasn't being represented, which is that we really take the middle path. We really believe in unity at all costs. That for us is the most important thing. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. No matter what you think or you feel or your ideology, you're a brother, you're a sister. And I wasn't feeling that from the protests. It felt like it was threatening our security before October 7th. I heard at the time from Lebanon, the Palestinians were saying, pack your bags, we're going home, because they saw the disunity in Israel. And in the Arab world, that is assign disunity, it's like they look at everything like chamulas, like families. If there's disunity and there's no authority figure, that means there's a gap in power and they can enter. And they're right. Mm-hmm. And they were right. October 7th happened. So now I'm like wondering, well, the protests didn't work before. How are they going to work again? So I can't support something that doesn't take a different stance, a different view, at least in perspective or nuance or energy. It's something that is much more loving and uniting. So that's what I would like.
And Mo, let's turn to you because you have a little bit of a different outlook. I know we spoke previously and you've been critical of the government, especially now, for example, of the new draft law that's being proposed. I mean, what's your take? And also when you hear from Sarah.
What's amazing is I identify with her completely from a different angle. Like, she's right that we should have unity. She's right that together we stand united, we fall. She's absolutely right. The thing is, you blame the protest, not what happened beforehand. So it's like you blame the victim and not the oppressor, which is a strange thing. But altogether, I relate to her that both sides are drumming the drums of war and not the drums of unity from all spectrum of Israeli society. But if you ask me about, so I'm an ex-Likudnik. I was a Likud. I left when the current Netanyahu came in because I don't believe in him. When you see reality, put the draft beside, put the protest beside, you see reality now. The new draft law is a truthful manifestation of the way he divides and conquer. He divides the people. He says, you don't have to serve, you serve. And then he divides and conquers. That's what he's doing. And he's doing it, and he's hurting the people of Israel and the only Jewish state. And that's something I can't take, because you can't endanger us as a people and then argue the protest is doing what? He's the prime minister. It's his role to bring people together. It's his role not to divide us. It's his role to make legislation that is acceptable, that is mending wounds, that is bringing people together, and not saying, okay, I'll pass laws that suffocate with it. This doesn't help.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time, but I do want to try and end on a positive note. You know, Sarah, you spoke about the importance of unity. I mean, are you hopeful that Israelis will once again be able to stand united, especially in the face of Hamas and potentially Hezbollah in the north and you know, all the fronts that we're seeing today?
I really feel that every person's going to have to answer that for themselves. Every person's going to have to choose. Am I going to go out onto the streets and shout and scream and create more energy of hate and blame? Or am I going to go out and say, what I want is to call you my brother. What I want is to call you my sister, no matter what your ideology, no matter what law is passed, because the hate and energy, the hateful energy is only going to destroy us. We need to learn how to create a sense of, we want a new government, yes, that will pass laws that serve all of us and unite us. Yes, the government should be calling out for unity. It is their responsibility. But it's our responsibility still as a society to choose that we will even be better than them, that we will stay united no matter if they want to divide and conquer. We will not be divided. And that's what counts to me, and that's what's important, because as one person, I'm quite powerless. But together, if we put our heads together and if we pressure the government to listen to us, but in a loving way, without putting their backs against the wall and creating this hysteria that really creates so much alienation within us, that would be so much better. It would be so much healthier.
And Mo, I just want to give you a final thoughts.
Words are nice, very nice words, and I believe her, and I relate to her, and I wish I could say the same. I think we should hold our government accountable, and even more so. I think when you have a Likud party, the first time in history that a nationalist party is against its own military. The Likud is against the IDF. It's calling not, the army says we need such and such soldiers, and they're voting for law that's against the soldiers of the IDF. So her son will do 4 years of regular army. My son will do 250 days a year. For how long? So if we have an extended war, you can't, what happened before 7th October was a different story. You can't ignore it anymore. And the Likud is voting against the IDF and the IDF soldiers. This is not unity. I mean, it's nice to speak, but you need soldiers to protect the unity of the people. So I'm sorry. I agree. We agree to disagree, as they say in America.
Well, it is absolutely a difficult time, an emotional time for all of us, and especially for you with sons serving in the IDF. So thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.